Welcome back to the PPL podcast. This is our second episode. I am your host, Davis Jamieson. I am joined today by our co-founder of the league in the PPL, Keith Stein, who joined us last week, and also joined by Barbara and Shannon, and Johan will be joining us soon. These are our Arkansas owners. Keith, let's start with you. I have something I need to tell you, Keith.
Hold on, save the thought. Remember, before we start our episodes, we always have to honor and recognize the great one, without whom we would not be here today. Our co-founder and the commissioner of this league, Marcos del Pilar. And how do we always honor him?
Oh,
Davis,
easy.
what do we say?
Count me down. Count me down.
1, 2, 3.
Vamos!
Vamos! Vamos.
Excellent.
We're thinking about you, Marcos, always. Okay,
Keith,
sorry, David.
I need to start with something while it's fresh in my head. I got a text from a mutual friend yesterday with a photo. And this photo was a young Keith Stein standing next to a legend, John F. Kennedy Jr. Can you tell me what this is? What is this about? I know this is a paddle, but you need to tell me about this.
This definitely has nothing to do with the PPL or paddle. So
keep it brief, but I need to know.
I'll talk about this a bit. And it's a bit of a sad thing. I don't like downers because I was one of the last people to have a business meeting with John Kennedy Jr. He flew up to meet with me, and I picked him up at our hangar. He got off the same plane. It was the plane. And I drove my car up right next to the plane. He got off, hopped in my car. And something I'll obviously never forget. I don't know if I was a big fan. I liked him a lot, but growing up when I did, John Kennedy was like the Prince of America. And I don't think there's been anybody like him since. And it will be hard to get someone else like him, the son of that president. And Junior had all this charisma and so many other attributes. But anyway, I'll tell you what I did do, that because I want to take this into positive territory, but we should always remember John Kennedy Jr. And I'll talk more about that with you offline, Davis. But it was something I'll never forget. But we had a meeting, so I picked him up and I thought, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this. Can you imagine having someone in your car who you wanted to talk to and get to know?
Yeah. Well, I saw the shirt you were wearing, and I could see you're probably pretty nervous because you didn't pick out the best shirt to wear that day.
Oh, really? Okay. I don't remember the picture, but so he was held captive by me in my car. I just drove around for an hour, getting to know him, talking to him. And maybe that's my jumping off point for this podcast, because for the next little while, Barbara and Shannon, you're going to be held captive by us. Okay. And we're going to really pepper you with all sorts of questions. There's so much we want to learn. For those of you who don't know, Barbara, and there's Johan, Shannon's husband, and we have Shannon. Barbara, Shannon, and Johan are the owners of the PPL's Padel franchise, professional Padel franchise, or Padel franchise in Arkansas. And today is a very momentous occasion, because I think for the first time, Barbara, Johan, and Shannon are going to unveil the official name of Arkansas's first professional paddle team. Drum roll, please.
All right. So the team name for the Team Arkansas is going to be the Arkansas Matrix.
Woo! Arkansas Matrix. Wow.
Very nice.
The Arkansas Matrix. Okay, this is official. And are we the first people to know that?
You're the first people. Yeah. We're going to announce it to our club tonight in a big event that we're having.
Very nice.
Okay, so I have one obvious question. I'm assuming Keanu Reeves is going to be playing for your team or somehow connected.
Yes.
Yeah, but
he'll be our number one player.
I think it's a great name. But speaking of famous people, though, our other teams are working with all sorts of famous athletes and people. Are you thinking about that? And are you also going to be announcing some new association or signing of anyone famous?
Still in the works of it. We're working on it. We're going back and forth between people in different industries, trying to figure out what would be the best fit for us. Somebody who brings exposure, credibility to the league. But yeah, we're still trying to figure out who we exactly want. We're in talks with a couple of different people, so we will be announcing eventually.
Shannon and Johan, you were top tennis players in the States when you were in college. So are you thinking about some of your famous tennis friends as possibilities for the Arkansas Matrix?
There's definitely a possibility. I have a lot of friends who are now doing very well in the world of tennis. So maybe.
Do you know something that we don't? Do you feel like you're really pushing them into a direction here?
I have heard rumblings.
Rumblings?
Okay, and Barbara and I do have late night texts, which will remain very confidential.
Oh my God.
I don't want to make Barbara blush, but
we do.
You might have a spy inside your group, Shannon and Johan.
Well, we have to continue to share a little bit of information that we can leak out. So we're all moving in a positive forward direction. It's very young stage still. So every little bit of information, like just getting a logo or a uniform, is an exciting new step because we're in a very concentrated time. Yeah. And these two are managing a racket facility, managing a rental real estate company, and managing the team. So they have a lot on their shoulders.
Okay, Barbara, I want to stop you there because there's something very interesting. And I think the audience will want to hear this backstory. You are the matriarch of the family. It is your fortune that you made that has allowed your family, Shannon and Johan included, of course, to build out this racket club, which I think you spent $10 million building. And now you've purchased a PPL franchise. And I'm assuming, again, it's being bankrolled by you. But you and Shannon and Johan are partners, equal partners. Is that correct?
We are, because there's a lot to be said about money in the bank, but there's even more to be said about talent in the field. And so, yes, I can provide some financial support, but you can't do anything without product. And they are the product, and I'm very fortunate to be partners with them. And yes, we're equal partners.
So you made your fortune in the telecommunications industry. So you're a great entrepreneur. And as a great entrepreneur, you're used to calling the shots. But now, as part of this threesome, how are you coping, and how's the decision-making being dealt with? Do you have the final vote at the end of the day? Or tell us how that goes down.
Well, I am an alpha female that is learning to be an A-. And, there's always struggles with that. And that's been my whole life, not only in this project, but in any project, in any partnership that I've been in. And I do not have the final say, nor do I want the final say, because I feel like they contribute more on that part than I do, because they're more relevant. They're more in the trenches. I can provide lots of background and lots of stability in the finance part of it, but you can't do anything if you just have money in the bank and you don't have anything to anyone to partner with to use that to maximize your potential.
That's well said.
Yeah, it's a struggle, because I know that's what you want me to say. It is a struggle, but at the end of the day, I think if you don't struggle and you don't have different opinions and you don't come together at the end of the day, you're going to be stagnant and you're not going to be able to produce the best product. So it's okay to have difference of opinions. It's okay.
So let's use a real world example.
Yes.
A very important day is approaching in relation to the PPL. This Monday, March 20th, the inaugural draft is taking place. So Shannon, who has the final call on your picks? Is it?
I think we all trust Johan's opinion the most when it comes to the players. He's been talking, he's been pulling, doing the most work when it comes to the players right now. So I I fully trust his, I mean, I'll give my opinion, of course, I can't not, but I think both of us will trust Johan's opinion the
Well,
most.
he's also already got the logo on his shirt, so he's ahead of the game for sure.
Yes.
Where did the name come from? Now that I've seen the shirt, it starts somewhere else. Tell us about the name.
Yeah, so basically, we our racket / health club is called Matrix. So it was a really good fit, and we feel like it would be just an extension of our club and our brand. So we've started Matrix 2 years ago. I don't know if they've already talked about that.
Speak into the microphone. We're having trouble hearing you a little bit, Johan.
Okay, my bad.
Where is my?
Right there.
Oh.
Yeah, so we started Matrix, our racket and health club, about 2 years ago, and we feel like this would be a good extension for our brand.
An environment.
By the way, Johan,
Yeah.
Johan, I have a big problem with you because I'm
Beyond the mic.
Let me hear it.
I'm very jealous of people who speak multiple languages, people who were born here in the States, then they come to the States from some other country, and they speak perfect English without any hint of an accent. So tell everybody where you're from and when you arrived here in the States.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in the Netherlands, Rotterdam area. And then when I was 18, I moved to the States. English is my second language. I'm born and raised in Dutch. But I had a little bit of an accent when I first came to the States, but I really wanted to work on my English and speak proper English if I was going to continue to live here in the United States.
He has a pet peeve with people not trying to speak with an American accent or with the same accent of the language. So he worked on
How
that.
many languages do you speak, Johan?
I'm fluid in Dutch and English, and I speak some German and a little bit of French.
Oh
but my
God,
French
we
is
all
not very good.
hate you now. We all
We really
jealous
do.
of you
Are
now.
you biased though, given your background, your European background and your tennis background? You've been evaluating the players we have in our draft. We're very impressive. We've had, over 500 players apply. Do you have any bias in favor of the European entries, the European players? Or in your mind, are you just looking at everyone regardless of their background? And I ask that question not only because of your background, but because Europe at the moment has a richer history in the sport.
Yeah, I think, and that's part of what the league is trying to do, is to promote Padel in the United States. So I think that Europe is a little bit further advanced as far as like culture in the sport and as far as level goes. So definitely we'll be looking at level more than anything else, because ultimately it's a league trying to win the league. So we'll be looking at level mainly, and whether they're from Europe or from America doesn't really matter to me personally. If winning would probably be the most
do you already
important.
have your selections?
We have a list of people that we would pick when they're available. Obviously things can happen because we don't have the first pick, so it's not 100% guaranteed. But we have a little list of people that we would pick if they're still available at that time.
Johan, I work for Team Miami, and I'd like you to give me all those names so that I could cross-reference them with our team if possible.
Sounds good. I'll send you a list. I don't know about the list.
Okay,
but I'll send you a list.
I'll take
Have
any
you
list.
have you been in contact with the players you're focusing on?
Yeah, I've reached out to some players, see where they're standing, what they're expecting from playing in the league, where their priorities lie, if they want to stay, if they're international, for example, if they want to be here for 5 weeks at a time, or if they just want to play for 2 weeks, kind of feel what they're looking for.
So I've been asking all these questions, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Davis in a moment. But this is one of my last questions. You two are real athletes. You run the Matrix facility, which has tennis courts, pickleball courts, and Padel courts. I know you're both avid Padel players. Have you considered playing for your own team?
The thought has crossed our mind. I think if all of our players get sick and injured, and if it's between forfeiting the match and us playing, we'll definitely play. But instantly, I don't think we'll be putting ourselves in the lineup just yet.
Is it possible? Is Barbara also considering playing?
Well, no. But I will support them. I'll stay and I'll be their biggest cheerleader, because as a parent and as a fan, I love watching Shannon and Johan play. It's very exciting. Padel in itself is very exciting. So there's two sides of Padel, remember. There's the fun side and the spectator, and there's the player. I represent the fun spectator that's sitting there with some type of beverage, laughing, enjoying, and having fun watching them sweat.
Very nice. Very nice. You know, and anyone can kind of take this question on because I think it's universal.
I would love to see Shannon and Johan play for the team at some point, because it would be unprecedented. I don't think there's been any other professional franchise in the world where the owners have actually played for the team. It happens in movies, like the Way Back When, Heaven Can Wait, I think. But anyway, it would be so cool. So that'd be really exciting. Davis, I'm going to turn things over to you, because I'm sure you got
Maybe, and Shannon and Johan, if you do end up playing, maybe pick the week that you play Team Miami. That would probably be positive for us if you could do that. So
Yeah, but you're on the court too. You're playing. You're a tennis player.
I only tried this sport, like 2 months ago, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible sport, but even as a tennis background, dealing with the wall and some of the other things, like that was actually my question to the three of you. From the transition from tennis into paddle, how long did it take you to feel not only comfortable, but to feel like you're playing at a decent level?
Well, lucky for us, the first time we really learned how to play was with Marcos, and he taught us immediately how to do everything. Like, he was just so awesome. So he really taught, like, I don't know, I guess the first, I don't know, what do you say, like 4 hours?
Yeah, after a couple hours.
4 hours.
4 hours. Yeah. I mean, obviously you can still get better at everything. Like, you're never gonna be really good, but like comfortably. Like, we weren't like still missing after 4 hours.
And where's that link between you and Marcos? How did you guys meet?
So back in 2018, we went to a racket conference down in Orlando. And that was the first time we met Marcos, and the first time we saw a Padel court, because they had a pop-up court. And then we went to another one about 6 months later, saw him again, and this other man named Lee, who was just awesome. And then immediately, like on the spot, we bought 3 courts. They came and erected them. And then Marcos came and certified us as coaches and some of our other employees as coaches. And that was our background with Marcos. And we just have had a great friendship ever since.
Davis, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
One question, because maybe we've glossed over this. So
this is question number 300, by the way, just so we're aware.
Okay. I've only got 50 left. So Shannon and Johan are married. Did you guys meet through tennis? Did you meet when you're both college players?
Yeah. So Shannon was a highly recruited junior because she was top junior tennis here in the US. So she went to University of Arkansas. I went to University of Arkansas. We lived down the hall in the dorms.
We were freshmen at the same time, and the women's and men's team were very close, hung out, partied together. We saw each other every single day. After midway through our sophomore year, we decided to start dating.
Very nice.
Very, 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 very cool.
Who's the better tennis player now? Will you play each other still?
Well, we don't play anymore. I have a bad shoulder. But if we were to, I mean, yeah, he's got.
You know what? Funny, Keith always thinks that that we all play tennis still. Like, we teach tennis, that they're on the court grinding it out for, Keith, none of us are playing anymore. We could still beat you.
I'm always thinking about who's better. I'm wondering if Johan and Shannon played Davis, how well would Davis do? By the way, Davis, you've never told our audience. Can we hear about your tennis story for a moment?
Yeah.
We have 3 seconds. I will go over that story. I'm a provincial and national level player in Toronto, Canada, and didn't go to the US on the scholarship. Instead decided to go to University of Toronto because it was better for me at the time, and for my family at the time, and for everything else. And it was a great education. They wouldn't allow you to play tennis on the team if you had a certain national ranking. I got my degree and then moved on to teaching tennis, and now I'm the director of tennis. So I was as good as a lot of players going to a Division I school, but didn't go, chose not to. But that's as simple as I get for tennis. But thanks for asking, Keith. Now we've bored the listeners.
I'm going to be excusing myself, but Davis, I hope you'll talk to Barbara, Shannon, Johan a bit about the rest of the family. It's a very interesting family. Barbara's husband is building an airplane in their garage, an airplane that will be up in the air in about 6 months. So this is not your typical family. And I'd also like our audience to learn more about the Matrix facility, because this is a unique place. It's not just about racket sports, it goes beyond that, and there's a vision.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave it there, and you guys can run with that, please.
Thanks, Keith. That's actually an excellent question. You know, I think around the world with racket clubs, a lot more people are talking about not just having a tennis or squash or badminton. It's now you're looking at having all the racket sports all together. What does the Matrix have exactly as far as racket sports?
We have tennis, pickleball, and padel, and then we also have boutique fitness classes.
Right, that's incredible. And
Yeah.
pickleball, is it exploding there like it is everywhere else?
It is. So we opened in January 2021, and we put down 2 pickleball courts on our indoor tennis courts. And then about 3 months later, we put down 4. And then about 6 months later, we put down 6. And then now we're up to 8. And we're actually building a new facility just for indoor pickleball so that we can get our 2 tennis courts back. So yes, it is getting huge here. Everybody loves it.
If it wasn't for in Toronto too, it's becoming massive. It's the indoor outdoor weather that is a problem here. Same thing with paddle. It's tough to get that, but you know, with pickleball, it's obvious, and we talked about it in episode 1. Everybody can play that. You know, like I have an 11-year-old daughter who doesn't love sports, but she can play pickleball no problem. Whereas paddle and tennis, these are very difficult sports. Do you feel like you're getting absolutely everybody involved in pickleball versus just athletes?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We were just talking yesterday, our oldest member who comes out and plays 5 times a week, he's 86 years old.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
And then like we'll have a family membership where it's a grandfather, a father, and a son all playing on one court together. I think that's what's like so cool and special about pickleball.
That's amazing.
Well, I just want to interrupt there for a second, because that was one thing Keith was alluding to. It's the environment we're trying to create at Matrix.
Yeah.
And the word matrix itself is about creating a new environment, and very symbolic of what we're trying to do is make this a place of health, fitness, and fun, and with an emphasis on fun. And we think that racket sport, no matter what kind of paddle racket you have in your hand, is something that every member of the family can do. It's a lifelong sport, like biking and golfing and everything. But we also, beside of our Padel courts, we have a 10,000 square foot lawn area with games in it, just for family games, so that you can come in it and enjoy it. So
that's incredible. And so do you think, I like if what I think is that paddle is going to start to take off in all different states in the US, and I think that the PPL is going to be a big part of that. Do you see that part of the issue is culture, and that, you know, especially Americans and Canadians are the same way. If we don't make it our own, we kind of leave it off to the side. And if a World Padel Tour just sort of rolled through Arkansas, that wouldn't do the same justice as having an actual team. Do you kind of agree with that sentiment?
I'll let Johan answer that, since you know the American and European culture. Where
I agree with that, and I think that's why the PPL is going to be so important for the growth of Padel in the United States. I think this franchise model that doesn't really exist as much in Europe really works well in the United States, like the NFL, NBA, MLS, you name it. It's all that franchise model. It's a proven model, and I think that people in the US, they really get behind the teams more, and more of like a region get behind the team. And I think that would really get people to come out and watch and even play the sport. And that's how I think it will grow. It'll be players, they'll try it themselves, they'll become spectators, they'll tell their friends about it. And I think collectively that'll all grow organically, so to say.
And I guess that's is also why the league has, you know, we're drafting 6 Americans, right, on Monday, and we can have 2 international signings. I guess that's part of the growth, is trying to get as many of the North Americans in as possible. What do you feel? And I guess Johan, you'll probably want to take this one as well, because you've been making the phone calls. The talent level between the two, you know, talking with someone in Spain versus someone in in anywhere in the US. Do you feel like the level is becoming closer and closer, the USPA rankings versus any other type of rankings?
Yeah, I think that especially as time will go, I think it'll get closer and closer. I think just because the US is a little bit behind because it's a newer sport, there aren't as many courts, aren't as many people playing. I think the more people will play, the more talented people will play, and then they'll push other people to train and get better. I think that the rankings, that the US rankings will get closer to the international rankings. I currently think that the better players are still international. But I think that over time, if people keep practicing, keep getting really into the sport, and as the sport grows, I definitely think that there's plenty of talent in America for where they can be top of the world.
And blending that, right, will be a big start.
Yeah.
So having some Europeans come over and play with the North Americans, that will bring the level up. I think that's a big part of it too. I hope every team is going to take advantage of that, I hope. Barbara, I have a question for you. So Keith left us with sort of talking about family. What exactly is he talking about there? Is there a long list of family members that we should be talking about here that have something interesting involved with paddle, or is it just your family in general is so interesting?
Well, to me, it's not very interesting. It's kind of boring, but I guess it's unusual because we have very an eclectic group of family members. I have a son that's a chemical engineer, graduate from Penn State, that's a introvert, and then I have Shannon, who is a extrovert, that's an amazing athlete and business person, and then my husband is a retired military after 22 years of being a pilot in the Navy, and that's why he's now got a new project in the garage where we did talk about yesterday, because he's only building a 2-seater plane, and I was like, it's a little small for me. Where's my luggage? I said, maybe
Barbara, come on over to my house. I'm building a 4-seater. It's all good. I'm building a 4-seater.
Can you maybe sell it and then buy a 4-seater?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can build.
Well,
but he's like, oh no, I can build a 4-seater too. We just
Sounds
had
like
that
he probably
conversation.
could.
So anyway, so we just have a very eclectic family that find a path forward to keep pushing each other further and further.
So back to draft and back to the team. So I know every team is excited. Everybody's making their calls and figuring things out. Are you making the trip to Toronto for the draft?
Yeah, the three of us will be attending the draft.
Oh my goodness. So we get to meet in person. This is exciting for me.
Johan wanted to know if anybody wanted to play Padel the morning of the draft.
I want to know if anyone wanted to play maybe Monday morning.
Good luck finding a court. Toronto is the worst for that. We were talking about that the other day. It's like the Toronto Polar Bears they're going to have some fun trying to find somewhere to play there. They're going to have to do something pop-up probably, but there's maybe most of the courts actually in Toronto are privately owned and are in someone's home or in their cottage. There isn't there aren't any clubs, there's no racket clubs at all that are hosting paddle courts. Everything is pop-up and private. So this is why I'm only hearing about, I knew the sport, but this is why I'm only starting to get involved now. Is I had to go all the way to Miami to participate in this, because it's not in Toronto. It's not talked about. It's not discussed. When I go to the world rankings and look at all these players, there's players that have been number 1 in the world for 15 years. I don't know who they are. Right. So I think that's part of what we have to get out there, is that has to be known more. So they're more household names. And I guess that's the start of having these franchises. Is Arkansas drafts somebody and then they become popular within Arkansas. And then as a result of that, become popular everywhere else. There's no other real way of doing this, right?
Yeah, we need growth. Yeah. But on the backside of that, we are going to the Netherlands in a couple of weeks, and we tried to book a Padel court and we can't because it's all booked out for a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a different
and they have
problem.
plenty of courts. Yeah, they have so many courts, and we're like, oh, let's go play, because he has some friends that are really good over there. They play in like the highest league, and we're like, let's go play, and then we can't get a court.
And the infrastructure in some of these European cities, like I was talking to someone from Spain in Toronto. I'll give you an example. Every 3 kilometers, there's public tennis courts that were built in the 60s or 70s and keep getting resurfaced. That model is changing everywhere else, in that they're not doing that. It takes too much space. So it's pickleball and paddle. I know I spoke to someone in Sweden, same thing. They're not building 8 tennis courts for public use anymore. They're building 2, and then they're building paddle, and then they're building pickleball. So the infrastructure within all these are going to change, I think, rapidly over the next couple of years, in the US especially. They'll second guess whether putting in public tennis courts is the right route. Maybe they do 1 or 2, but they have to start looking at space. And pickleball
Yeah,
and
we have
paddle.
a new park going up, and they put in 2 tennis courts and 4 pickleball courts.
Excellent.
And I think the way you play is different, because with pickleball, and I'm hoping Padel is going to be like this too, it's more like a pickup game.
Right.
Tennis, you have to make arrangements, you have to find a court, you have to find 4 players. The pickleball players, they just show up. They manage themselves with all this open play, and you don't have to play with the same players all the time, and it's very social. And that's why we were so interested in Padel, because we thought it was like that. It might be more dynamic play,
Yeah.
but it was more about the social interactive. And we
Yeah.
think young professionals, for example, can come out and network and grow the sport, because it's fun to play and you get lots of exercise from it.
Yeah, and the skill level, right? Like I organize and run a tennis club. The biggest task is to match people up level wise, because
Yeah,
it's
that's a tough
important.
one in
Whereas
tennis.
in pickle, it's like, just go on, you'll be fine. And paddle, I guess, is somewhere in between. I mean, I played it, you need skill, but it doesn't have to be played like the highest of level either, right? Like, I played paddle with someone as a beginner, and they weren't really using the wall.
Yeah.
You know, it was sort of back and forth hitting and volleying, and that's fine too. That's so I think we're going to end this off soon, but I have an important question for all of you, and I think it's going to be a tough one to answer. But as far as the draft and the league is concerned, I know Keith started off. Maybe Johan, you jumped in a little bit late. Keith started off by you guys maybe having a large name in the back pocket. You don't have to name them, and you won't anyways. But will this person, if this person ends up signing on with you guys, will they be a player, coach, ambassador? Will they be a player, or will they be just sort of helping out with the team?
You want to take that?
We're hoping to bring somebody on as an owner, actually. So we're going to do something a little bit different than what the other teams are doing. We want to bring someone on as an owner who has more skin in the game and who wants to see that it grow more than just being somebody who's paid to support.
I can't wait to look up all the ex-Arkansas tennis players and make an educated guess on this. Are they from Arkansas? Come on, Johan.
No.
Come on.
Go bigger.
There's no tennis players from Arkansas.
Oh, but what do you mean? I told you I lost to someone earlier, so there's got to be someone.
But it doesn't necessarily, it's just like, Toronto just announced, doesn't have to be a tennis player, doesn't have to be a racket sport, doesn't have to be an athlete.
Yeah.
I think one thing you have to do is make it broader. And so we're just looking at all kinds of different industries across every walk of life. Who brings the most value to grow the viewership? That's
amazing. Well, like I mentioned in episode 1, our team Miami has brought on Juan Martin de Potro as.
You've announced that now? We can say that out. Oh, that's awesome.
We're allowed to say that out loud. So he has signed.
Yeah,
he has signed on with us. His role actually is interesting. He's more into the draft and the players and the recruitment process than he is anything else, which is pretty exciting. He doesn't. It's funny. He doesn't know all the players, just like I don't know. But when you get an athlete of that level and they get competitive, it can get fun. Yeah. So it's interesting going back and forth with him. So I was hoping that by name dropping him, I would get something out of you, but that didn't work.
Nothing we can share at this moment, unfortunately.
Okay, maybe in episode 3, I'll have you on as a guest again, and you can share something with us.
Only if you bring him to the draft so we can meet him.
He won't be at the draft, unfortunately, but he will be with us in Tampa for a lot of the match play.
Nice.
And he'll actually be in Miami next week for the Miami Open, and part of the responsibilities there is to discuss the Pro Paddle League. So he's going to be heavily promoting it, and it's a benefit to all of us for sure, right? Just like anybody you bring on will be exposure for the league that we didn't have before.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm hoping we can do something with the Miami Open in the future with the PPL.
Yeah, we will. I think this is just the start, and it's going to be big going forward. Well, it was an amazing pleasure to have all three of you on and meeting you. We haven't met before. I look forward to seeing you all, I guess, on Sunday, right? At the dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dinner.
And then at the draft, I'll try to be nice to you on Sunday, and then Monday, we'll see. Okay, it's gonna
We'll
be
see.
it'll be up in the air. But thanks again, and this was amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
And we're gonna sign off here, episode 2 of the PPL. Look forward to episode 3. See everybody soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.